What is good? Let's have some fun. It's the Fundamism podcast with your host Paul J. Long and all things fun. We'll let the fun begin. Woo! What is good, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Paul J. Long coming to you from the spot, Mecca Arrowhead Stadium, with one of the best all time to do it. Before we introduce this gentleman, I'd like to shout out to our sponsor, Charlie Hustle. If you're looking to look the freshest, the baddest, and the cleanest on the block, and you want to rep our city, Kansas City, we got you. Check out charliehustle.com. They got nice duds. We, of course, are in the Charlie Hustle suite here at Arrowhead, and I'm stoked. I am absolutely just amped for this guest here because I grew up on this guest right here, Mr. Neil Smith. How you doing, Neil?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm on cloud nine. Look, it don't get much better than this.
Hey, I like the background.
That's
man.
right.
I'm trying to tell Charlie now when he comes back to his suite, man. You got to add 2 additional jerseys here, bro.
That's true. How can we hook that up?
Yeah, we're gonna put him on the spot.
I think that's on Bobby. Bobby, you're gonna coordinate that, right?
There you go. There you go.
So, Mr. Smith, is it okay if I call you Neil?
Oh, no, you call me Neil, man. Don't call me Mr. Smith.
Well, I know you're
but
from
I am
the
Mr.
South.
Smith. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But not LL Cool J, Mr. Smith.
No. Never made LL Cool J's type of checks either.
So you grew up in the South. I want to be respectful of you. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But first question that we start with every guest, Neil, is what do you do for fun?
Well, my fun time is, I picked up this game. When I played sports, everything was about angles and leverage and strength and, speed and all these different things. So I picked up the game golf.
Ooh.
And, I don't know, something about this little ball that you can't hit to make it goes the right way, just sitting still. And it's been a challenge for me, but I'm finally getting it. I'm finally getting it after maybe about 7 years of playing. I'm getting the game down now. I'm trying to get my scores down. And literally, it's fun for me because it was a challenge up until now, and I got it. I'm still in double digits, but I'm still 11 handicap, going into a 10, and that's saying something.
Sure, it absolutely is saying. It says a lot about your persistence and growth, and I think that equates to a lot of things in your life, or correlates to a lot of things in your life, which we're going to talk about. I've never met one individual that I asked, "Are you good at golf?" And they say, yeah, I'm good at golf, but never fails. I go out there with them. Of course, I get ran because I've never shot anything under 100.
Well, that's where you start.
That's right.
You started at 100.
Started from the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm still there. But nevertheless, Neil, you played for the Kansas City Chiefs. You played for the Denver Broncos. You played for the LA Chargers. But long before that, you were just a young boy growing up in Louisiana. So how'd you know that football was it? Like, what was the moment that you realized you got something?
Well, I think that the moment I knew, and not just football, I knew that sports was for me. As a kid, you watch it on TV. You see it. You see the basketball games. You see the football games, and it's in your mind that, wow, man, as a kid, how exciting, want to be one of those guys. So I kind of it kind of was in my mind, in my mindset or whatever. And then one day I was outside raking the yard, just cleaning up, and I'll never forget this first guy that ever came into my life. Drove up. His name was Coach Earl, and he started. They were starting a new park like right up the street from me, and he pulled up and like, hey, hey, do you play in the sports? This and I said, no, sir. He said, is your mom home? Can I talk to her? He drove up in this little slug bug. I'll never forget. It's powder blue. He drove up and he sit there and he said, he spoke to my mom. He said, yes, ma'am, Miss Smith, I just, my name is Earl. I want to, see if I can have your son to come and play with us, at the park. And man, I just lit up like my eyes lit up. Mom, yes, please let me go. I can do this. I can do this. And she's like, well, he's the kind of like kid that you got to kind of watch because he's a little hyper. Earl, I have to talk to you a little bit more about my son. He kind of explained to him, but no, Mom, I can do this. I please let me go. So I kept begging her until she finally said yes. And when she said yes, I went yes. Not knowing how to play no sports, never did it, but learned from that day how to play every sport. And that was a moment that I was like, okay, I got introduced to something that I just felt absolutely in love with: football, baseball, ran track, and played everything and was a little jock about it,
Sure.
Wanted to be the best at it. So it started at an early age. And of course, when I did, pick up that NORD program that we had, And it really impels me because I had an opportunity to then go back after I made it and get back to that same program. That was the most sweetest thing about it all.
So I know you're pretty active in the community. I want to talk to you more about that as we progress too. In that moment when Coach Earl saw you, you weren't really into sports. You were raking the leaves. You're a physical specimen even to this day, right? Intimidating. But then of course you talk and you're just a big old teddy bear. Don't tell anybody. But nevertheless, you're just a great dude in getting to know you. So do you think? What did that coach see in you? Were you a physical specimen then at that age?
Well, I really wasn't. I was more of a kid. He was just trying to pick up the kids around the neighborhood.
Gotcha.
And how to and bring them to the park and give them something else to do. It was something new back early in the 70s, and it was the thing about it is that you never forget those moments because all the guys that was around us when we played the pickup games that across the street in the park or whatever. In the front of the schoolyard, then all those guys became good friends of ours. We became teammates, and we came how to learn to play sports and how it was something that we can do, after school and not be in the streets and have that ability to find out what you really are.
Sure. And so I know that was kind of a journey for you. We were talking before we started recording here about football is the path that you chose.
Yeah.
But there were other paths that could have been, right? And so you've mentioned multiple times here, you've referenced basketball. So you were a hooper growing up. Is that accurate?
I was, man. I actually played baseball. I had a love for it. I ran the high hurdles and the low hurdles, and I was I did field events and sports. All those things I think that I did. It really, when I chose to go football, it kind of made me a better player athletic-wise because I could do it all. I feel like, it wasn't nothing I can do with the 40-yard dash because I can run fast. I always can get in and out. I can jump very high. I've always had, when I say the specimen of an arm reach, God couldn't bless me no more with his 7'1.5" arm lengths. And anybody was in my way, I can grab them and snatch them up. So, and I knocked down a lot of balls that they really didn't. They don't question that no more. They don't do that no more. It's all about the game's changed where those guys are now just dwelling on the sack part of it.
Yep, the bull rush and all that.
Yeah, the sack part. But man, knocking balls down is just like getting off the field.
Sure.
You can just get in that window and knock some of these balls down. And the game's changed. Like I said, they're throwing the ball on every down now. So it's always ways that you got to get better at that level.
Well, it certainly is fun to watch, but it's different. And so when I grew up watching you guys, the rush hour, you and the best in my mind to ever do it, no offense. But Derrick Thomas is just an absolute role model and awesome guy to me. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I don't have an offense to it. You said it best. There is no other two that did it. If you did, let me know. I don't think no one has ever did it number-wise and on the field. And I'm not just bragging about it. I'm just telling you true stats that, Derrick Thomas and me was meant to be Kansas City Chiefs. It was meant to be two of the best guys that ever did it at two different positions. And it was fun doing it. And it was fun, getting to know that young man because, like I told you earlier, he really impacted my life in so many different ways. First of all, as a little brother. Second of all, as a brother because he became that. And then, a person that I truly fell in love with, as a man. Respectively, both on the field and off the field. And that was, and I think that when Carl Peterson and Bill Cowher chose to get that guy, they knew what they was doing. And I talked to Coach Cowher. He had no doubt in his mind that when he worked Derrick Thomas out the year before, he said that, Neil, he was our guy. We know he had something special.
Sure. So let's talk about that whole process because you had mentioned that you're a couple years in the league now, right? Is it 1 or 2 years?
1 year.
1 year in the league, and you get a call. Hey, did you see this draft? Right? and who we get? Tell that whole story about.
Well, my uncle called me up and he was like, when I first got to the pros, I was like, man, I love college football and I've always do. I still watch it today because it's so. You can see how hungry the guys are. They're very close. This is the next step. If you have an opportunity to get to, to the big leagues and get to the pros. Well, my uncle called me up and asked me. He said, Neil, do you have any idea, the guy that you drafted, that you got? And I said, no, I didn't watch the draft, this and that. Who do we get? He said, man, you got this guy out of Alabama. His name is Derrick Thomas. He said, son, I watched this kid because he's a big LSU fan down in New Orleans. And, he said, man, this guy can single-handed turn a ball game over. I've seen him beat LSU by itself. And he was talking about how great he was. But Alabama wasn't very good back then. They was pretty decent, but they wasn't as powerful football team as they are now in these days. But Derrick, man, right now, would love to be a Bama fan. I know he's going to be a Bama for the rest of his life.
Sure.
But to see this here, he would never think that his school would get back to this part. But I tell you what, when he said you got Derrick Thomas as a draft choice, I loved it, man, because he said that, some things I didn't know about him. He said, man, this guy single-handed is the best I've ever seen that played the game. And I was like, well, that's some kind of big words. He said, yeah. He said, you two going to be special with each other. Way before my coaches even said, he said this to me right after the draft charts. He said, put you two together with the secondary that you have. And he said, you guys going to be the best that ever had as for us guys. And he wasn't lying.
Man.
True story.
Well, I'm sitting here on cloud nine because, again, I came up on you guys. We called you Rush Hour, obviously, as you're well aware. You guys both smashed the quarterback. You both got after. You both had high motors. And then to learn about, what pushed you guys was amazing to me. And so you had mentioned that you were super competitive, not just on the field, but off the field. So what drove that competition between you two?
Well, I just seen the way, how Derrick approached things. It was so easy for him, but it was so hard for me. And the reason why I say that, because Derrick Thomas really wasn't a guy that really was a practice hard guy. He was a guy that just had ability, raw talent. And me, I had to get something out of practice. I had to feel like I was doing something to get prepared for that next game. And, for that up-and-coming game. But Derrick was taking it so easy, laid back and energy-wise, saving it, knowing he can go through, the motions in practice, and he didn't really care about it. Well, on a game day, when those balloons go up and those jets fly over this arrowhead here, it stated what kind of guy he was. And what made the challenge part of it is that when you have a guy that was that good, you want to get something from him. And when we watch film like, it was our job. We was trying to break down and take every advantage that we had as players, individual, and we came together as that, and we started to challenge each other when we started seeing plays, and we'll laugh about it when a guy, flatten us or somebody get a big stick on it. We'll just fall out and laugh, and then, we'll take it personal because nobody like to get, pancake as they would call, and then they have to get back up. But that's a part of the game, and so it became that. The starting part became like, he was a partner. We studied together. He get tips, I get tips. Well, one thing I didn't have that Derrick had as far as talent is his get off. And when I say get off, when he get off the football, he was always seemed like he was one step ahead of getting off the football than everybody else was. And I didn't understand what was he can. And I used to get down on the left-hand side. I used to get down with my right hand down and looking in, trying to see, what Derrick is looking at. And I'm gonna go when Derrick go with my right hand. I couldn't get off that fast.
The brain didn't work that fast.
So I said, okay, well, here I am. I got to find out when this guy doing. So when I started doing it, I changed my stance. So on the rush downs, I would actually get my left hand down. It was different than anybody else that ever did it on the left hand side. I put my left hands down. Well, now I can actually see him all the way across. And I never watched the football. But when I seen Derrick Thomas flinch, I'm flinching. I'm going with him. So it kind of made me seem like we was getting off together and never watched the ball. I watched him. Well, hell, we was more offside than anybody. We was outside more than
Chris
anybody,
Jones.
trying to jump the snap count than anybody. But it was great, man. It was fun time. When you get two guys together that grow and learn and have the ability that we had. And I tell you what, what the Hunt family did, how we changed this foundation and this chief nation now, what they call it, being a part of it, it was special because it was a lot of love here, and we didn't have the offense that we have now and that luxury, but we made football fun.
Yes, that's
because
true.
You know what? If we played 90 plays, and we had to play 90 plays to win the football game. That's what it took. We didn't care. Because that's
13-10.
Yeah, that's what it didn't matter. It was a baseball score. If you didn't want to see defense, you don't want to come in here, don't come in here.
Yeah.
A lot of teams came and didn't come out of here with a victory.
That's true. Yeah. And that was, we're to this point now in 2018 where the Chiefs, our team, they're playing like they did in the 90s. I mean, specifically different style of play.
Sure.
But we're at the pinnacle now. I mean, we're in the talk of the best in the division, not just the division, but the AFC, and potentially Super Bowl contenders. And you guys were perennial, competitors in that regard too. I mean, this was a place to play.
Absolutely.
And so, first of all, I find that fascinating that you were watching the ball at all. You were watching DT. That says a lot about him. But thinking through just your strengths, and you're one of the best to ever do it too. I mean, specifically, you're a Hall of Fame candidate, and And first of all, I admire you, and I'm super proud of you. I know that probably doesn't mean anything
it
coming
means a
from
lot
me,
to
but
brother. I appreciate it.
but I grew up watching you two, and you were telling me earlier. So again, I reiterate, a Hall of Fame candidate. You told me that you were watching film, and you'd watch DT do something, and you'd say, "Oh man, I don't think I could do that."
Yeah, when you watch film, when you watch film on each other and you see things that you do, you'll be amazed sometime of yourself. What do you do and how you did it? And, you never question it. You just say, wow, if I can do that, I can do this, and try to push yourself to the next level. Well, I kind of watched Derrick Thomas. He did something one time, and he came around the corner, and he did this dip move. And this dip move is still today that guys do when they come. But Derrick Thomas gets so low to the ground, and he dip. And when he dip, the offensive lineman actually don't have anything to hit, and he goes across the top. And when Derrick comes up, he comes up with a rip. Well, he's already facing the quarterback. And it's one of the rushes that they have today that a lot of guys you can see that comes around the ends. They'll do that dip move and come up. You can see D4 do it. You see Houston do it. A bunch of other players that surround the league and do stuff. And everybody, and it just didn't start from Derrick Thomas. I'm sure Derrick got it from somebody, but it was one of his moves that he did. It was his patent move. With me, I was more of a physical type of guy. I like the bull rush. I like the clubber guy. I like the rip. Howie Long told me the rip move, and the thing about it, I studied the guys that was around me that made it happen. The Bruce Smiths, the Reggie Whites,
Oh, yeah.
And the Charles Manns, and Chris Denton, all those guys that was before me that I wanted to get something out of them. And when I studied these guys, I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna work on this week. This is what I'm gonna work on next week. I'm gonna work on this guy move this week. So whenever you see a guy, and when I studied the opponent, everything he's strengthened, all of his strengths and his weakness, I had this arsenal of things that I wanted to pull out that week that I was going to work on. And I was going to keep doing something until it worked. And that's just what it was. The big thing about me and Derrick is, like you said it earlier, high motors. We had the motors that we thought that we could make every play. Now, these players right now, they don't think they can make every play. But we thought that we could make every play. And that's how the game has changed so much that if a play was away from us, we still got in pursuit. If we had to make that play, 30 yards down the field, we make that play because we're in a hot pursuit. So if a guy break loose, we were still there to make the play downfield. Nowadays, guys don't do that. Once they get past a certain level, they seem like to turn the motor down and trying to save something. Well,
Yes.
We just wanted to just play because we had no idea that we wasn't very ripe to make every play, but we thought we could.
Sure.
And that's what made us to that next level. Studying the opponents, knowing that you can make plays, and just when the game was out there, just leave it out there. And I have no regression on anything I've did as far as up until now for football wise.
Sure. Well, so I want to talk a little bit more about that. I want to talk about folks taking you under their wing. I want to talk about obviously the passing of the greatest Mr.
Sure.
Derrick Thomas.
Yeah.
But before we do that, something that you said just really resonated with me because I think a lot of folks tune into this podcast. So I was telling you before, this is the fundamentals of a fun and optimistic lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So basically, whatever you do that gives you strength, whatever lifts you up out of a challenging moment or gets you out of this mental prison, that's what I call a fundamental. Sure. And so you're living life with fundamism. You're gravitating towards things that give you strength. You're creating a better environment for others. And part of that is confidence and throwing all of yourself into something. And so I was telling you that Kareem Rush was recently on. Mm-hmm. And I asked him recently, he's got a goal of going on The Voice. He's a tremendous singer. Okay. So I said, hey, what's the probability of you going on The Voice? He goes, 100%.
How you going to do it?
He said 100%.
Awesome.
So I said, have you auditioned yet? No. So what's the probability? 100%.
So then I said, in the back of his mind.
That's right.
Sure.
So then I asked him another question. I said, what's the probability of this this entrepreneurial thing that he's getting into, these things, these water tubes that he saw? 100%. Every question I asked him, Neil, was 100%. Okay. And so when I think about what you just said, you went full bore every single play. You never knew. You just had to. You went after it, right? Absolutely. And I think there's a metaphor in there for life. A lot of folks listen to this, they say to themselves, yeah, but I'm not Neil Smith. I'm not a Hall of Fame candidate. I never played. I was never the pinnacle of my craft, but they're great at something. Mm-hmm. And so I think what I'm hearing you say is no matter what you're doing, no matter if it's football or whether it's, the entrepreneurial spirit or whether it's being a good dad, which I know that you're proud of as well.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about that. You got to put yourself in it. And you got to get out of here and go for it, right? And stretch yourself. So where'd that come from for you? Is that something that was just innate for you, or is it something that came over time?
No, I think it comes over time. And when I say it comes over time, because it's so important that you touch on so many different things as far as, bringing it from the mind, because that's where it starts at. If you don't have that mindset and take that beyond your mind and bring it to, what's in front of you on an everyday life, it makes any individual. And that's where the challenge comes from. The 100% is coming from because in his mind, he's thinking, you know what, 100% I'm going to give it all, or 100% I'm going to be there. Well, he's telling himself in his mind that, yes, I am going to be there one day. This is my next move. So I think that life is so funny. The best thing that I ever can get out of life is that when I accepted Christ as my Savior, when I got baptized, and I'm not trying to get into the spiritual thing with you, but when I got,
man, this is your
when
show.
I got baptized and I brought God into my life, things just start changing for me.
How old were you?
I was about I would have said about 10, 11 years old when I walked up and said, hey, I want to get baptized in an old Southern Baptist church and down in Louisiana, and had a great uncle that was a minister that I came up on it became a bishop, and he taught me things in life that that was in church, but it was just setting me up. This church set me up when I gave Christ my life to where I'm at today, and that's why I have no hatred, and I have love for everything that I want to do or what I'm getting ready to adventure in, and I can give back because I'm this person that, I think I can save the world. If you give me all the money, then I think I might have the solution for our problems. No hungerness, people that's living in the streets, curing diseases or anything. But, it's just not meant that way. But it's meant for us to be here to do one thing, chip the blocks. And try to prepare people that's coming beyond us, Unfortunately, I'm so grateful to have 8 kids, in my life. And I've had older kids and I have younger kids. Started over in my life. And then I have 3 grandkids and 1 on the way. And I'm 52 years old. And no one can say 52 years old, you got that much going on in your life.
Right.
But it happens, But am I going to look back and say, God didn't give me this for this reason? He gave me this for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that now I'll just take it as it come. The hand that he gives me on every day. There's only one person mad, and that's the devil. Because when when I put my foot down, I'm mean for a purpose.
Sure.
And the purpose is helping people, loving people. Well, it's the smaller things. It's the little things in life that what you get out of life that brings you to a level that I think that empowers you to make you feel better. Well, we want to save people too, and that's where I love to meet people that have problems and I can talk to. Was it marriage? Because I went through it. There's some things you got to go through, like a divorce or something in your life that someone can say something to you, or you having problems or want to kill yourself because you just things are not going right for you. Well, you know what? Why ruin something that God gave you that's so great? Put yourself back in touch with your reality, or put yourself back into a frame where it's so surreal that he loves you because he gave himself for you. And then you allow yourself to give it back to someone else. That's why we have so many people that go through so many things in life that's so important that I just love to hear stories that people give me, same thing that I'm giving back to the world.
Well, one of the things that I appreciate about what you're saying, I recently had the opportunity to speak with the Air National Guard.
Sure.
And we were touching on many of the subjects you just hit on, suicide, sexual assault, all that stuff. And so I asked a young lady, this is in front of the whole group, I said, what was that? What's the thing that you gravitate towards that gives you strength when you're going through the struggle? And she said, my faith in God. Mm. And so you said that, Kareem said that. What I like to equate that to is regardless of what you believe in, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like we would be ignorant to believe that we are the biggest things on this planet, right? Yeah. And so what I appreciate about what you're saying is believing in something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
And releasing yourself to realize that everything's happening for a reason, right?
That's right.
And part of that is in your control and the decisions that you make. Mm-hmm. And so I probed a little bit more. So I said, well, what is your faith, if you don't mind me asking? Mm-hmm. And she said, I'm Protestant or whatever,
sure.
maybe. And so then I just probed. Now, this is in front of a group of 30 people, right? Okay. So we stopped the conversation and I say, hey, How many of you have ever been told not to ask questions like this, and everybody raised their hands?
Right. Not no more.
Not no more.
Absolutely. It's wide open, brother.
It should be, right?
But it should be. It's like religion. They don't want to, they don't want you to bring it and preach it into the locker room. And that's well spoken. You're not supposed to push it on nobody. But if somebody ever wanted to ask you, then it's still there. So I kind of had it like when I played, I had to have control of it. You can't allow it to you don't want to preach to no one, when they're dealing with their own problems.
Sure.
And, you got to let it come to you. But not no more, because I'm not into the game no more. So I can speak freely on anything I want to. What's so great about me? And, and this is what we are now. Even in life right now, our country, the greatest country in the world. People we're trying to be divided by it for what? What reason? What purpose?
Right.
But there's still going to be a foundation. This is not the worst that we ever gone through, and never going to be the worst. But you know what? That's the hand we dealt. We got to deal with it, brother. Every day we got to keep on figuring out the way. How can we make it better?
Sure.
And I'm a part of that journey.
I love it. And I think the interesting thing is, you mentioned today's society. I don't think there's ever a problem talking about it. The problem is when we get ourselves into problems is when we're so opinionated about our perspective that we're not even listening to what the other person's saying anymore, right? And so that's why I find this platform, for me specifically, is so amazing, because I have the opportunity to talk to amazing individuals like yourself and learning more about your background and your come up and what drives you, and specifically in hopes of one person listening to this and taking one little nugget that you said and say, yes, I could do that, or yes, I've been through that. And so let's talk a little bit about one of the most challenging moments in your life. Your boy, your brother, somebody that you came up with and that you literally changed the game with, DT. He passes away, gets into a horrific car accident. He's on life support for several days. We think that he's going to pull through at one point in time. And
absolutely.
And I got the news, and I remember, this is, in my eyes, still to this day, he's my favorite athlete of all time. And so I'm bawling. I cut out the news article and I put it on my dresser and all that stuff. You guys are besties. You guys are best friends.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about that experience with what happened there.
Well, I remember the day, when tragedies happen, you always remember where you was. When 9/11, where you was when the space shuttle, blew up and going to the moon and going to space. And I think that, that moment right there, I remember exactly where I was when I got, that he was into a car accident. And I was actually living in Denver at the time, and I was on a family vacation up in the mountains. And I was told, that, I'm thinking that, okay, Derrick is in a car accident. Okay. Is he okay? Yeah, he's fine. We don't know. That was the word. What we don't know. Well, that right there didn't sit very well with me.
Sure. So
it made me made me start moving. I told my mom, at the time, I told my ex-wife, I was like, hey, what, we got to go. I'm like, get the stuff, let's go, let's get in the car. So we up in the mountain, and man, it's just pouring out snow. And I swear, it was just, I don't know how we got out of the mountains, because if you ever come out of a mountain when it's snowing, you just can't see the roads. Sure. But you don't know that it's a fall from, like millions of feet up to your left, but you're just coming down. So we finally made it down, and I can get, got back on the phone and said, yes, Derrick was in a bad car accident. It's not looking good. And I'm like, okay, I get down from the mountains. I go directly to an airport. I get dropped off and take a charter flight to here, to Kansas City, because he's still here. As I'm touching down here in Kansas City, they're now taking Derrick up to go to Miami on a flight. Never got a chance to see him here in Kansas City. So then I take another charter the same day, goes to Miami, right behind him. By the time then, Derrick was prepped for surgery, and I get there at the time where he's getting ready to go in to have this major surgery, and he's getting ready to, his mother called me, and the doctor comes. All these things I can remember that I talked to Derrick. He was very swollen, didn't look the same, but, I know he was,
Was he coherent?
No, he was very coherent. He looking at me, and I was told to tell him that, that Mike, one of our friends, had passed in an accident, and his mama wanted me to do that. And I then, looked over to him and said, Derrick, I wanted to tell you, it's like, you just hang in there. I know that things are not looking good right now. And I said, and the first thing he asked me before I even told him, he said, where's Mike? He said, where's Mike? I said, Mike is gone. And he just rolled his eyes back, and he started to cry. And, tears were coming out his eye. And I said, but that's okay. I said, I still got you. And he opened his eyes back up and he said, that's damn right. And so all at once, that's how this guy was so strong in life and just so strong. When I seen that he was crying one minute and the next minute I said, well, you got me and I'm here and I'm never going to leave you. Then he knew that he can go into surgery and come back out. Well, he did. He went into surgery, came back out, and he was doing good. I mean, I was there the whole time, never left, never had a toothbrush, nothing, no clothes, no change of clothes, no anything. And I stayed at that hospital for a long time until finally that he got up, he was eating, and then I was like, okay, I got to go back home. I want to go back and change clothes, get me some stuff and get my, get back into my, get my family back into to life or whatever. I leave and, a couple of days later, I get the call. I'm sitting on my back deck that he had passed. And I just talked to him the night before the Pro Bowl came on, and they was going to do an honor. They said it was going to do an honor for you, that you're not there this year, and you turn it on and look at it. And he did. And that was the last time I talked to him. Sadly but say, but in spirit, brother, he's still with us because, Derrick have a foundation that he started. He asked me when he wanted to get involved with a foundation, what name that we can use, because I was so good with names, helping people with names and stuff. And I said, Derrick, what do you think that you are your best at? And he said, like, I'm good at every downs. That's his question, right? And I was like, well, yeah, I know you're good at every downs. I said, but what situation that you like to be in? If you had anything, so, well, I like to be in third down. He said, oh, really? I said, okay. He said, like, third and what? Third shot? No. Third and long. And I said, well, there you go.
Because it's a passing down, and he's going to get after the quarterback.
And he know who's coming. And I said, Derrick, you just said your name. And he looked at me and said, how in the hell you know that? Like, why do you come up with this stuff? I said, I don't know. It just come to me, Derrick. I have no idea how things happen, but it is. And he said, you know what? I'm going to name my foundation Third and Long. And I know what it meant to Derrick because when he came here with the Kansas City Chiefs, they used to have the ambassadors, the older ambassadors that we had to get involved with. My guy was Buck Buchanan, the great Buck
yes,
Buchanan.
Sir.
And Derrick
right
Derrick had Otis Taylor. That was one of the guys that started him, that took him on his arm. And we had two great guys. Of course, Buck has left us, and Otis right now is still fighting for his life, And those guys was mentors and told us how we can get involved and how we can stay involved and how we can give back to our community, which is, Kansas City. So it was family from family that this was passed on. How we just became, Kansas City Chiefs family, how the chief before us laid the carpet for us and showed us how to unfold this and how we got involved with our foundations. Well, when Derrick died, I took my foundation and put it in limp because they was needing somebody to step up for Derrick. What greater person to ask me? They asked me. And I said, no question without my mind that I would do anything to save this here because I know how this is so important to Derrick, how he became the man of the year, with this foundation and how the things that he did in his community, how very active he was, that I never wanted to see this fire ever not being light. So I took it upon myself and took over something that was so great that we're still giving back to the community with the reading program. And the reading program is special to me too because it's not only it's not only the kids that's empowerment. We got kids that left here that's doctors, some of the lawyers we had. That kids come back and speak to the up and coming kids. That's so it's so important to us that we need to do this. And how they give back is that to myself, I overcame a learning disability when I was young, and I had a reading problem where it got to the point where I couldn't, was afraid to read in front of people or read out, because, and I still have that fear today, even though I know how to read, but it's just something about, you happen to do it, it brings you back.
Yeah.
It'll never leave you. So by me overcoming the same type of problem and that we can give the kids, something to bank on, they look at me. They turn to me and say, oh, you know what? If Neil can do it, why can't I? And that's the hope that we have. That's what we need is just a little hope. Because after hope is always people that's going to grow and to become, great people in life and how they can impact the next generation to come.
So the Third and Long Foundation, if anybody wants to learn more about that, they could just...
Yes, you go to the Derrick Thomas, Neil Smith Third and Long Foundation. You know, Google it and go through it. You know, one thing we're doing right now is that we have an opportunity that we normally do a turkey drive. We started this turkey drive so long ago, and I think Jonathan Hayes was one of the guys that first started it, where you know you come in and we raise money as a team. You know, players go around. Derrick used to go around and collect money from players. How much you gonna give? You have his book. Oh, I don't $100 here. You put your name down. He goes up, and then he gets this here amount. He said, "Well, damn it, we ain't got enough." So he'll go back again and ask for more. He's like, "All right, man, I need you to bump your deal up. Can you bump it up?" He bumped it up. So Derrick had a plan, and he took it to another whole level where, you know, this is where the Kansas City Chief family comes in, and Mr. Hunt and Lamar Jr. and all those guys that Clark helped us out. Derrick went to Carl Peterson. He said, "Carl, I got this amount of money from all the players. Now I need you to match it." And Carl was immediately said, "No problem, I'll match it." And that's how the match became. And now, you know, we have no one to pass this legacy on. I need to grasp one of those players, you know, to keep this going for us, because this is so special, not just to our foundation that, you know, we're feeding families, you know, at need. And, you know, we've had up to 5,000 families now, you know, with the help of the chief and our surrounding food venues here in town that really helped us. You know, the Price Shoppers, the Hy-Vees, and all those players. You know, all those players that came in and give the families free turkeys and free food baskets. That we would love to keep this continues to going. And I know we had stumbled this year because we can only feed maybe up to 1,500 families because, you know, we don't have that player yet. But I know it's coming. Mm-hmm. Someone is going to step up. You know, one of our players here in town, you know, going to step up and say, "Hey, you know what, I want to be that next guy that I want to keep this going." And if we can do that, then I think that, you know, I'm sure the chief, the love of the family, that would definitely keep us going. And, you know, I'm just so proud to be, you know, here in Kansas City. You know, it's home for me. It's my second home. It's a home that, you know, people want to know, why you live in Kansas City? Well, it's so easy. It's not hard to live. You know, you can't live beyond yourself. And, and it's just great people here. And
people hold the door open for you.
Oh man, it's just, you know, if you've never been to the Midwest, get here. You know, I grew up in the
South.
Or
don't. Like, we don't want you.
Don't. You know, like, you know, we had snow yesterday, but, you know, look at the day, the sun is out.
That's right.
It's always a brand new day, brother.
Sure. Well, a couple of things that you said that really stuck out to me, drawing correlations to what people are going through. I was having the conversation with Bobby, our Chiefs contact over here, and we were talking about sales. And, you know, so many people are afraid to ask for a sale. They're so afraid to just to look somebody dead in the eye and say, "What can you commit to?"
Sure.
And so whether you're in sales or fundraising or whatever it may be, I find it fascinating that Derrick Thomas, one of the best to ever do it, carried around a notebook and said, "What can I put you down for?"
Yeah.
Because you know what, we're so comfortable just sending an email. Sure. So right now I'm going through it. Like I just dropped a book on Tuesday. I'm super excited about it.
I'm looking forward to reading it too.
I got one for you in the car.
Oh, awesome, bro.
So
Don't forget to sign it too.
I got you, fam.
Awesome.
It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. Just dropped. So I'm super stoked. But nevertheless, one of the things that I've always struggled with is asking people for help. Like, I hate asking people for help. And so reaching out to all my former clients or whatever, I'm doing it all via email. I'm saying, "Can you send something out to your folks, all the attendees or whatever?" I know this. Like, I know for 100% certainty it means so much more for me to pick up the phone, call somebody, and say, "Hey, Neil, what can you commit to?" But fear or whatever it may be gets in the way.
The fear comes because you hate the word no.
That's right.
Or maybe I can't do it, or this is not the right time, or I'll get bit passed to someone else to say no to you.
That's right.
So I think that my mother said something to me long ago when I was a kid, that she always said, "Neil, you know what? There's no question that's too big or that's so dumb that you cannot ask." So, and you know, asking a question is like, "Hey, if I don't have it, I don't have it."
Sure.
You know, ask someone. So I don't have a problem with doing it, you know, and like I said, I'm going to get a player. I'm going to get one of those players. I don't want to mess with them now because they are in something very special right now.
Special.
One thing you don't want to do is interfere when something is going as good as they got right now. They have an opportunity to do something that's very special and haven't been done in a long time here in this city, you know, and to get to the big dance and win it. Do they have it? Absolutely. You know, is it going to be a tough road? Absolutely. There's nothing easy about what you do in life. It's just a challenge, you know, and hopefully that, you know, they can get over their hump, and they will this year, you know, of winning in the postseason play. So I'm excited about seeing it because, You know, I've never been excited about offense, but I hate to see what they did to the defense to get this,
That's
to
right.
get to the game to where it's at right now. But nevertheless, I couldn't play at this time. I couldn't play right now because it's so hard for me to see that, oh man, the way I have the physicalness and
Sure.
now it's just grab and guys, jumping over guys 10 feet tall. I wish a guy would jump over me. Like I said, you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
He
okay, let me see you jump.
He's jumping over you.
Right, let me see you jump. So I think these guys, they're fascinated, man, that, they still have the talent and they're showing all the highlight films of the offensive players, doing these running things. But we got a group, though. We have a special group on our offense that we can challenge with. And this upcoming week is going to be good for them, man.
Sure.
This is something that I think that a lot of people say, like, oh, no, it's not a must-win because it's not in division. Yes, it is a must-win. You know why? They're the next man up. And if you send a statement, if you have to see that team again in the Super Bowl, you'll know, say, okay, we beat you last time, and we can beat you again. So that gives you confidence. Now, if you lose to them, you're going to say, okay, how can we beat them?
That's right.
You see how the difference is?
Watch the tape.
Exactly. So there you go.
So we talked about your come up. We've talked about mentors in your life, Buck Buchanan. We talked about DT. We talked about obviously lining up and your faith. So let's talk briefly as we kind of bring this thing to a close. Talk briefly about that moment that you did learn that DT had passed, because that is everybody's going through it. Yeah. And if you haven't, believe me, it's coming, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing that Fundamism or that my goal is with Fundamism is to allow folks to understand that there's something out there that's going to get through, help you get through whatever challenging moment in your life. So you said you found golf. That's what you do for fun. In that moment, when he had passed, what did you do to get through that challenging moment in your life?
Well, it was the most hurtful moment that I've ever had encountered in my life. I've lost a lot of family relationships to great people in my life. Even my father, like I told you earlier, a couple of years ago, that died on Father's Day. Was born on Valentine's and died and passed on Father's Day, and that really hurt me. But the death of Derrick Thomas really impacted and changed my life because he was so special to me. Not just that. It's just that you never forget, you never forget how great a guy this guy was. You've seen him on the field, you've seen the way he was. I've seen him in life. And that's a different, seeing a person in life and knowing an individual that it was one of the hardest deaths that I ever encountered. And I think that God put us in places and he do things for a purpose. Mm-hmm. He put Derrick Thomas and me together for a purpose and a reason. For that love relationship that we had and that the chains of guard, the chains of the game and empowerment that we did on the field and what we doing off the field, it was meant to be. And I'm proud to accept that. But I could say what, looking at Derrick's kids now, how they've grown to be, fine young men and women and to see that, that their father, and I tell them all the time, they call me all the time, about a story or something about him. I just can't say it all in one day, but wow, man, it's something that's in the back of my mind. I would never forget, that, Dad's going to be that person, that's going to be in your life. And one day when he's gone, you're going to really appreciate and what he really meant, or she meant to you. And Derrick was one of those guys that I could say that it meant the world to me. And I truly miss him, but never, ever going to be forgetting about him. Never going to forget about it. It's not a day that goes by someone don't tell me about Derrick and not just me thinking about him, that someone always says something about him. So, from the time that he's been gone, every day someone says something about this guy, or every day I see somebody wearing a 58 shirt, or every day somebody saying something, how great he was, and how I know how great a man that he was, and how great of a father he was, and what he meant to the city of Kansas City, and how he embraced and took the challenge and fought his race all the way to the end. And that's what's so blessing to me. Well,
you're a very humble gentleman.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate you being on this show. One of the things that I think about whenever I invite folks on the show, oftentimes there's individuals like you that thrive in telling the stories of other people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's uncomfortable talking about ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
You are a great man that have accomplished a lot of great things, and so my goal on this show today was not to feature the life of DT, but to feature the life of you. And so specifically, the reason why I brought up DT, is because I know how much he meant to you in your life. And I think so many people can relate to somebody or something holding a large piece of their heart.
Sure.
And then losing it and losing their way as a result of that.
Right.
And so part of my goal in bringing that whole situation up is to figure out, what advice do you have to other people that are going through it, that have lost someone or something that meant so much to them? How do you get out of that headspace and focus more on the stuff that lifts you up?
Well, I just think that, everybody goes through grief in so many different ways, and you have to go through the process of learning how to accept it. And, the only way I did really had deal with this and for a long period of time and really put it to the bed is that, I know that I still have to go on, even though life is short for some and it's long for others. That we was put here only by one man that knows when the day we come, the day we're gonna leave. And then if you allow yourself to grieve, what you're supposed to do because we're human.
Sure.
But then let life goes on afterward. There is life. That's why people are born every day. And if you continues to then live through the people that he have there or she have here, that can give you that joy or bring that to you. That's what I do with his kids when I see them. And I think that, I'm finally getting to the point to Derrick's son. It's almost like Darius, like a clone to Derrick Thomas. I mean, if you look at him, he just when I talked to him the other day, he just looked like, man, I'm just talking to DT. He's got the lips, he's got the body build, he's got the head look, and his mannerism is like, it's scary, man. It's scary to me that I've told this young man, I said, man, you need to get involved more with your father's, with your father's foundation, because I think this is something that he would want one of his kids to have. I will continue to work with you, but I think that you need to get more involved. And he took that challenge to say, you know what, you're absolutely right. I'm ready to do that. And I say, and it's a commitment, brother. That's all it is. It's just commitment. This is something that's going to live through you because you'll bear the name. And you have the Thomas name, and you actually look like him, so you can almost pull it off if people really didn't know. So,
I just want to say that, growing up, this stadium has created so many memories for me, as I'm sure for you.
The beginning and the end, man.
The beginning and the end.
I say that because, I know it didn't end the way Neil wanted to end in my mindset, but wow, you can't take those memories away from me, because I remember this used to be a turf field, and it was so hard and it was fast. And to bring a story up to you, a real quick story, is that when Derrick was out here one day and Carl Peters decided to take off the turf because guys was getting injured and it was getting old and they took that turf up, Derrick about lost his mind because he was always wanting fast tracks. And when Carl took that up and put the grass field down, I was like, God, thank God, because now I don't have to feel beat up as much as I do during the game. But you have no idea what that grass does that's different than what those turfs do to you, your body wise.
Sure. Well, listen, I admire what you've done in your career. Again, you're up for a Hall of Fame bid. It's not the first time.
No.
But I hope that people will hear you and admire you more as a man, as I do now, than I ever did as you as a football player. So you're a good dude.
I appreciate it, man. That's just the last stop. That's just his last stop. And that would put everything in perspective as far as what I did is off the field or on the field. Once I did that, I didn't do it for that. But when it gets to that part and they say, hey, Neil, you give me that gold jacket, I will accept it. And guess what? I will never forget it. And it means so much to my kids one day when it happens.
Sure.
Yep.
And it's going to 100%.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%, brother. 100% it happened.
Well, this is Neil Smith, Paul Long. If you want to learn more about the Third and Long Foundation, please go out, get involved, find a way to help some underprivileged kids. Go out, read a book, learn more about the foundation. Doing big things here in Kansas City. We're giving back. I admire you a great deal. I thank you once again for being on the show.
And so do you too, brother. I'm glad what you're doing for this city, and you know what? This is you. I saw the way you set this up and how much it meant to me. I'm like, man, this guy sets his own stuff up and get it going. You need more people like you, and that's why people are going to hear you.
Thanks,
you're going
man.
big places, brother. I'm
Thank you.
praying for you.
Hey, Neil Smith just said that about Paul J. Long, Rob. You hear that, sir? All right, guys. Hey, have an awesome day. Go out, have some fun, make somebody smile, gravitate towards something that gives you strength, and we'll catch you on the flip side.